This video is gonna have like no video of me because when I filmed it, I didn't realize I was filming from like the nose up, so you can't really see all of me. But I also don't want to refilm it because it took me an hour to film, and that just wouldn't be enjoyable if I refilmed it. I'd be kind of bored, to be honest, and I want to be having fun. So I'm just gonna put a picture up over it, and yeah, so I hope that doesn't bother you. Anyways, um, if you haven't watched my last video, I would definitely recommend doing so because it's gonna help explain a lot of the things that are gonna be mentioned. I'll probably go over them again because, I don't know, just in case you don't wanna watch the last video, but probably not as in depth. Today, if you can't tell, we are going to be talking about planets in the houses. A very exciting topic. So the first house is basically beginnings. It's talks about your birth, and as a result, that energy follows you throughout your life. It talks about your childhood, and it talks about your view on life and how you feel about starting things. It's your EO, it's your personality, it's all of those. So yeah, I feel like that was pretty a very simplified version of it. It's also how we act. To find the planets in your first house, go to the house that has the A, like it'll have AC pointing to it, and it'll have one in the house. It might also have ASC pointing to it. That is because the first house is also the ascendant or the rising. So find that, find the planets in there. I'll put on the screen what all the symbols mean. And then you are good to go. We are going to start with Mars. And I'll actually be explaining how I come to the conclusions that I do more. Let's get started. With Mars in the first, it's like Aries rising. The birth was likely quick. That's because Mars is about quickness. It's about rashness. It's about just doing. And so because of that, that's how they are in life. But we will get to that in a second. Mars is also about weapons. And so, during surgery, you use knives, which is kind of a weapon, And so maybe during the birth, there was a C-section or some kind of surgery. That's really it about the birth. But back to the quickness. Because of how quick their births were, they're often impatient in life. They want to do things and get on with them. They can do things very quickly, but also well. And so they could get annoyed at others' lack of efficientness because they just want people to get on with it, This also translates into their speech. They're often blunt and rash because they don't want to beat around the bush. That takes way too long. Or why I say rash, they're just blunt and upfront. This is probably why they also come off as aggressive. They have intimidating auras. They often have strong bodies or at least gain muscle quickly. And on top of this, they're often athletic, because they're efficient. And so they always want to be moving their body and doing something, whether it's work or tinkering with something in the yard or working out. They could be pretty passionate about working out. They could like to play sports. The sports thing is also because they're competitive and kind of a lighthearted sign, or not sign because it's a planet, but they're independent because Mars is masculine. It's like the opposite of Venus. It's like codependent versus dependent. Mars is also kind of an angry energy, and so they could also have a temper on them. Oh, and they're competitive, but they also have to come off on top. This is likely because of how egotistical Mars is. Mars just needs to be best at everything. That's where their competitive nature comes from. Mars, I'm assuming, I don't really know why it's about scars, but they often have stuff on their face like scars, rashes, pimples. So there's always something about the head, like a big head, a bunch of like scars or pimples on the head, lots of hair, not a lot of hair. Oh, and because of how much they like to be productive, They're active even into their elder years. Like, these are the type of people where they're like 80 and they still like to do their aerobics in the pool every day. I was going to say something else. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, they're literally anything but lazy. You know, like Venus is indulgent and therefore could cause laziness, and Mars is the complete opposite. They could be prone to surgeries. See, that would probably come from the surgery during their birth, the C-section. And so because they carry that energy with them throughout their lives, they are prone to surgery throughout their lives. Mars, I've seen it being described as being about where you're defensive. So, I mean, I guess Mars in the first would just be defensive in general. They could be self-destructive, and this is often because of their rashness, and they're just doing instead of thinking whether it's good or bad for them. Moving on to Venus in the first house, the birth for them was probably as easy as a birth could be for someone. I mean, it was easy for the baby. The mom was likely in pain, you know? Yeah, because of this, they are indulgent in life. They don't really like discomfort. It's kind of, this really shows up in Taurus. They don't like discomfort, and that's why they could be indulgent people, especially in sweets. Venus is kind of about sweet things, so like with sweets. But they're obviously very attractive. Venus rules beauty. So they're attractive people. But Venus is also about self-esteem, and in the houses, it's about where you get it from. Venus in the first, well, first of all, they could really like their personality, but second of all, they need others to find them beautiful. They need others to like them. So first of all, especially if negatively aspected to Pluto, they could suffer from eating disorders because of how much they need to be liked. And beautiful, a lot of time is put into their appearances, even if not negatively aspected. They have high self-esteem, if not negatively aspected, or low self-esteem, if negatively aspected. But to receive even more love, they put it out. You know, they're very affectionate and self-expressionist. They're just kind to others, but that's often because they want that kindness back. They want that admiration back. They're not vain people, you know. They like debates and stuff, I guess. But yeah, that's a big part of them. And it's not just about their own appearance. This is like me editing, so sorry if the audio sounds different. But it's also about just beauty in general. They're very artistic people and creative. So it's not just like them being like just romance-centered or just like focusing on their own appearance. They like art. They may make art. What else? I mean, they obviously like to indulge in sweets. They could indulge in shopping. They could like fashion. They could be a designer. Like their creativity could really be spread anywhere, and so they're very creative people. Relationships are also probably a big part of their life and something that they're very focused on, and there could be a codependent nature with them. This is because Venus rules over relationships. It's kind of about balance and just things that make you feel good, really. Aphrodite, I read this the other day. I'll put the Twitter username of who I read this from, who posted this. She's really good. She posts a lot of informative threads. But anyways, Aphrodite wanted to please others. She was about likability in relationships in life. She wanted to please others with her looks, with her personality, with her likability. But she also wanted that back. She wanted it back in relationships and in life. That's why she wanted to please others. She wanted that admiration. And so Venus is about relationships and a codependent nature. I mean, this is kind of really obvious. I mean, I took sophomore English, okay, but I never thought about it in relation to Venus, really. And it would be interesting to start talking about the Greek gods before I explain something when I'm doing house threads. So yeah, that's why I'm leaving the username in, because I didn't make that connection myself. So since it's about creativity and self-expression, they express their creativity a lot. They're very fair and diplomatic, but Venus doesn't like confrontation. It's the exact opposite of Mars. Whereas Mars is upfront, Venus is passive-aggressive. They want to express to you that they are not feeling you, but they can't do it directly, so that often births passion, passive aggressiveness with them. And then also, they could begin Venetian, mostly Libras, honestly, could begin to resent you or themselves because of just how much they can't really express what they're feeling. Now let me check my notebook. Oh, obviously, they're very charming and charismatic and just likable. They're diplomatic and often easy to become friends with. And yeah, they probably like everyone. People love their style. I would say Uranus is actually more of a trendsetter, but Uranus starts the trend, Venus hops on it, and then everyone's fascinated with it after Venus hops on it. That's what I'd say. Oh, yeah, their face, like categories face. Their face is the most attractive part of them. With the Taurus rising combo, that could kind of offset it. Because Taurus risings often have attractive bodies, but, Oh, and if aspected to Mars, their body is athletic and strong. If Venus is in Aquarius, this makes them eccentric. Oh, and they also like decorating. This feels like a person with this placement could be a baker. Because, I don't know, they like sweets, okay? They could be a home decorator. Next is Mercury in the first. I'm pretty sure I lost the page for this, so no extra information for you. Mercury is a fast-moving planet, and so their births could have been pretty quick, too. Mercury is also about family, so maybe a lot of family could be there, but it's often about chatter and being talkative, so maybe people could have been talking at you a lot. Okay, so where should I even start? Because people were talking a lot at your birth, you become chatty, but lots of tropical Mercury in the first are sidereal Mercury in the 12th. And so in the childhood, you often see with a lot of them, if close to the ascendant, so the first line, with a lot of them, you see that in their childhood, they were encouraged to not talk a lot. They were just encouraged to not talk a lot, to be seen and not heard. They could have had a speech impediment, or just could have been shy. But later on in life, they become pretty talkative. They talk a lot, especially about themselves. They, Mercury is about humor, so they could be humorous, and I really don't know what else, but, they're often just, Mercury is at its pretty much purest here, so they're often blunt. Mercury is about communication. If in Pisces, they could be more passive aggressive, but especially if in a blunt air sign, they're often very blunt. They like intellectual stimulation. They could have a lot of hobbies, but a hard time seeing things through. They like systems and logic, and they're good with those things. They are very analytical. This is all because of Mercury's nature. Mercury is about systems, it's about logic, and tropical, at least. It's about the mind, and more of the mathematical side of it. And so that's just expressed within them. It's also analytical. And so they analyze people, because first house can also kind of be how you come off to people. It's about your appearance. And so, sorry. And so Mercury in the first often analyze people, and they can squint when they're doing so, and this could make them come off as judgmental, but really they just want to feel for their surroundings. They can often be gossipy though, because Mercury is about the spreading of information. So they're bad with secrets. They need to spread it, even if it's their own business. Next is Moon in the first. I really don't know about their births. I mean, I guess it could have taken place at night. It could have been chaotic. The expectation for when they were going to be born or how the birth was turning out as it went on could have fluctuated a lot. Because of this, they're very fluctuating people. They often can be moody. Me editing here, they could also change their appearances a lot. Like they could dye their hair. I'd imagine they could go through weight fluctuations too in life and things like that. There could have been a very emotional aspect to the birth, and because of this, they wear their heart on their sleeves and are very emotional people. They have an emotional view on the world. They often have pale skin, dark eyes, and dark hair, especially if they have a Cancer rising. This is, I don't know, just the nature of the moon. They could if aspected to Neptune especially, they could be a bit delirious at nighttime. I don't really know. This is what I read. I don't know how that would manifest. I don't know what kind of mental illness comes out at night. They could be at their wildest at night. They, with Moon in the first in general, I'm pretty sure, they could, if I can't find receipts on this, I'm cutting it out. But they could, nighttime is when they could feel they're at their most comfortable, because nighttime is when the moon comes out. The mother could have been very prominent in the childhood, a prominent figure, and I don't know. So now they could want to live up to the mother's expectations or take on a mothering role, or both. The moon is about helping others, it's about compassion, and so they do best when they're helping others or they're just in a public role, because then they're servicing the public. They could kind of have a childish aura because the moon is about the childhood, but emotional fulfillment could be very important to them. If something's not making them happy, then maybe they're miserable in their life. With Moon in the first, the mother may be an Aries placement or have Aries placements or have Aries traits. On to Sun in the first. With Sun in the first, I'm guessing that there could have been a lot of attention on the native during the birth. Because of this, they need a lot of attention in life. First of all, they naturally attract attention. They're very charismatic and charming. They're good leaders, and they're good hype men or women or people. That's what I should have just said the first time. But this can make them throw fits when they're not getting attention. Because the sun is about self-expression, they're very self-expressionist people. Unless Neptune is in here or like something else points to this, or the sun is very close to the ascendant, they are very self-aware. They know who they are. They know their self-identity. And so they express that very creatively. They're very creative people. When close to the ascendant or like conjunct the ascendant, they could often put on a confident persona that they don't have. Especially probably because they'll have sidereal sun in the 12th. So they don't really know who they are or how to express their confidence, but they want to be seen as confident with the tropical sun in the first. And they often need, first of all, they have a youthful aura. The sun is kind of about youth. It's about creation, and so therefore children. And so they have a youthful aura. The sun is very generous, so therefore they are. But they could be overgiving, and since the sun is about confidence, they could also be overconfident, especially in their decisions, because they have a confident view on life and on starting things. But the sun is also a beneficiary. Honestly, with anyone who has the same sun and rising sign, what you see is what you get is the exact phrasing I think I pulled from the internet. But this is especially true with the sun in the first, because their personality is just on display. There's no hiding it. There's no changing it depending on who they're around, unless they're very mutable or have Neptune in the first. But yeah, so what you see is what you get. They recover quickly. Me editing again, I'm guessing that's because they're ruled by the sun, which is, oh my gosh, it sounds like a sing, but which is Apollo, and Greek mythology, which is the god of medicine and like healing. So that makes sense. They're ambitious and they want validation for their achievements. That's the thing about the sun. Like, they're very confident, but it's like they just need other people to confirm this for them, that they are amazing. Unfortunately, the sun in the first is very aware of the status of the people in their surroundings. And so first of all, there could be disdain for people less amazing than them, is the quote. And then second of all, if they're more amazing than them, now they feel threatened and they're very aggressive to people they perceive as a threat. Sun rules the father, and so the father could be very prominent in their childhood, because remember, the first house is the childhood, but they could also feel the need to live up to the father or more authoritative parents' expectations. With sun in the first, the father may be an Aries or have Aries traits, because the first house is similar to Aries, and the sun is about what the father is like. And so with sun in the first, the father is like an Aries. Moving on to Pluto in the first. Pluto in the first, they often had a traumatic birth. The umbilical cord could have been wrapped around their neck. The mother could have lost a lot of blood. But it was just intense in general, and so there's probably a strong bond with the mother, I'm guessing. I don't know what this is, but yeah, because of this, they have a very pessimistic view on life. They have a fear of getting hurt, and so they're on the defense all the time. But they also attract a lot of traumatic situations, but they transform through them. And their personalities change a lot, because they're always changing and transforming, because this is all because Pluto is about trauma. Pluto is about defensiveness. It's about fear. And fear makes the world go round. It's about transformation. It's about your lowest points. But it's also about coming out of them and what births them. And so that's very ingrained in their personalities and in their lives. It's also about authority and power, because they really hate feeling defenseless. Which they often are in traumatic situations. And so they're just tired of that. They want power. They want to be on the top of the seesaw, is a phrase I always use. And so they have an authoritative and intimidating aura. Also, they often have a magnetic gaze and just a charismatic quality to them. There's a need for intimacy, but also the need to not reveal a lot about themselves, because that makes them feel defenseless. But let me check my notebook. Pluto is also about death, and the first house is about childhood, so there could be a lot of deaths in the childhood, and they have to learn about that very early on. They have a lot of existential questions, because Pluto is about digging deeper, and so that's ingrained in their personality. They like to read between the lines, look below the surface. They may be into conspiracy theories. Pluto is also about the taboo, so they could be into taboo and occult things, such as astrology. It's not necessarily taboo, but it's considered occult. Pluto is about trauma. The first house is about childhood. They often have very traumatic childhoods that were difficult. Pluto, because Pluto kind of explains Scorpio, and Scorpio used to be ruled by Mars. And so Pluto in the first, along with Mars in the first, often pick up self-destructive habits. But if you watch my Scorpio rising video, again, they're very easy to hide for Pluto in the first. Pluto in the first also is a placement that could deal with addictions. With Venus, at least it's just like indulgences, like sweets, shopping, stuff like that. Pluto, it's bad, like very bad habits. Because of their defensiveness, they're very hard to manipulate. And they have a hard time letting go of things in general. Next up is Jupiter in the first. Jupiter in the first, I really don't know about their births. It could have been easy for the baby. in every way, shape, and form. And because of this, they attract a lot of luck throughout their lives. They're just very lucky people, but they're also, because Jupiter is about luck, it's like one of the biggest beneficiaries. I would say it's the biggest beneficiary in the natal, but it's also about confidence. So first of all, they're probably confident people, even if it's just in their decisions. But unfortunately, Jupiter is also about overindulgences, and this can make them rash in their decisions, all of this, because of their confident view on life. And they have a tendency, because of overindulgence and Jupiter's expansiveness, to go too far. Which, Jupiter comes through with the luck and aids them, but it eventually runs out. It's the phrasing I saw. Jupiter is about expansiveness. So they have long limbs, they're tall, they could be chubby, but they also likely go through rapid weight changes throughout their lives, like big ones. So they could become super skinny or also gain a lot of weight. They could suffer from balding, I don't know why. And Jupiter, probably because of its overindulgent nature, is about fat, and so they could suffer from fatty livers. And yeah, any problems they have are probably, health problems are probably like relating to livers. Jupiter is about humor. Jupiter loves humor. And so these are very funny people. They like to have fun. They have a very optimistic view on life. And they're also very interested in travel. So if they can't do it, they should read. This may give them a restless nature as well. They just want to expand their views and how they see things. And this could be done through travel, seeing other cultures, learning a new language. It could be done through all of that. So moving on to Saturn in the first. Saturn brings a traumatic birth as well. It's also often very slow. And so because of this, they're very hesitant in life too. They're slow in life. They're hesitant. They have fears about starting things and a fearful view of life. They could come off as cold, but that's because they're not overly affectionate, because I don't know, likely they were seen as the responsible kid and they didn't get a lot of affection, but instead tasks. And so they're not used to being overly affectionate. They're very hardworking and responsible though. They, honestly, to loosen up Saturn, they should listen to their elders. Because Saturn in the houses is about what you can do to loosen up the lessons of Saturn. And so Saturn is about old age. The first house is about who you are. And so to loosen up the lessons of Saturn, they should talk to old people, people who are old. But yeah, because Saturn is about slow movingness, and the first house is about appearance and who they are, they often live very long and age very slowly. For some reason though, Saturn and the first are often short. And since Saturn is about insecurities and the first house is about your appearance, Saturn and the first often feel very ugly, or at least are treated as such. So yeah, they're often very critical of themselves and their appearances. I'm pretty sure I have a Saturn in the first page. They're very serious people, and they can even be shy. They had to grow up quickly and practice self-discipline. Oh, they were taught not to be very self-expressionist, because the first house is about your personality, and Saturn is very restrictive. So they restrict their personalities. Their parents are very critical and may be very bossy, because Saturn is about who the authority is in your life, and it's in the first house, which is similar to Aries, and it's ruled by Mars. So that's like double the authoritativeness. Oh, and as they age, they shrink in size and become even shorter. Oh, they could be Saturn is about tradition. So they could be very traditional people. They also have a strong sense of family. I don't really know why. They could be bullied. And yeah, that's all I'll say. They're also very like smart and wise, and they love to give advice. Moving on to Uranus in the first. With Uranus in the first, the birth was often very sudden or shocking. This feels like someone who didn't even know they were pregnant or just was surprised, or like they kept their pregnancy a secret, and so when they gave birth, everyone was very surprised, or just stuff like that. And so because of this, Uranus in the first natives are very shocking. First of all, they're unsymmetrical. They often have a quirky walk. Or maybe even a limp. They could have an asymmetrical appearance, or they could just have lots of tattoos, dyed hair, wear shocking clothing. I forgot what the second one was going to be. I don't know. Uranus is about freedom, kind of like Jupiter. So Uranus in the first feel restricted by their bodies. It feels like a limitation for them. But fortunately, they are very good with technology and math and science. They're very intelligent. Uranus is about intelligence. It's about intelligence. It's about math, science. And it's also about being humanitarian. So they're very nice and giving. And I'd assume they'd like to hang out in groups and just be a part of a greater cause. Because Uranus is about groups. Moving on to Neptune in the first. I'm a very proud Neptune in the first. I don't care what you tell me. I love having a Neptune in the first. Or my Neptune in the first. But anyways. During the birth for Neptune in the first, they were often drugged. The mother was put to sleep because there could have been a surgery. Neptune in the first often have Uranus in the first too, because Neptune and Uranus stay close together. And so if the birth was sudden, and shocking in some way, there could have been complications. And so that would be where the C-section comes in, or, the mother needs to be knocked out for some reason. And so because the mother is drugged up on stuff, that passes along. I really said, I'm gonna pick up a New Jersey accent. That passes along to the baby. So the baby is not even awake for their own birth. When they're meeting the world, they're not even facing reality. And it's said in occult practices that being under the influences opens you up to outside forces. And so because of this, they're very intuitive people. They just soak up their surroundings. Venus in the first is adaptable to people. They can change their personalities, but Neptune in the first is the ultimate chameleon. They just become whoever they are around, and they just have an understanding of people's energies. But people also often project on them because Neptune is kind of a mirror. And so they see the Neptune in the first native as having their own best qualities, which is good. But because they were not even facing reality in their birth, they carry that energy throughout their lives, and they don't want to face reality in general, in their childhood especially. Because recall that the first house is about the childhood. They were living through a book and movie characters. They were daydreaming, Obviously, there's not more extreme escapist tendencies yet, and so that's what they spent their childhood doing. Later on, as they age, they may try to escape through drugs or, just other harmful things. And so there's the tendency for addiction, especially because Neptune is kind of obsessive about things. If aspected negatively, like to Pluto or Saturn or Mars, or just in some kind of square, they should not do psychedelics. They're already barely in reality, and so that will just set them off for psychosis. These are the kind of people that touch Molly once and never come back. Not to scare you. I guess I am trying to scare you because you should not do psychedelics if this is you. But, this is just the type of people they are. But if aspected possibly to Uranus or maybe even Jupiter, they should go for it because it will cause spiritual expansion and just them to know themselves. Being born in a downer state probably isn't causing you to be very alert. And so they kind of are confused people, and the confusion is focused towards their personality because the first house is about the personality. And so they don't know who they are, especially because they absorb energies around them. And so They just have confusions about self-identity and their personality. Their personality is often changing a lot. Oh, also Neptune is just about confusion. So in the first house of identity and personality, obviously that causes them to be confused about their identity and personality. They're very creative and they could be very musical and spiritual people. Unfortunately, Neptune is about being a martyr. They want to save people, but unfortunately, that often causes self-sacrification. Neptune is about blind optimism. Like Jupiter is about optimism, but Neptune, it's even worse. They just want to see the best in people, and so this could cause them to be manipulated and just wear rose-colored glasses and ignore red flags about people and situations. But on the plus side, they're charismatic and charming, and especially if aspected to Jupiter, when they're looking at you, it looks like they're looking like centimeters behind your head or like through you. This is also probably because they just pick up on energies easily. They're very sensitive to drugs, okay? I said this once, I'll say it again. They often hit them harder than for most people. Like with anesthesia, they could be messed up for like hours after. And yeah, so they should be careful. I'll check my notebook to see what else I should add. Drugs for these people, for these natives, especially if aspected negatively, could cause literal physical health problems. But also these people, they tend to have, similarly to Saturn in the 6th, they tend to get rare and confusing health issues. So, yeah. Relating to them being asleep during their birth, Neptune in the 1st are very lethargic people and are often very tired and need tons of sleep. They need deep emotional connections. That's just how Neptune is. Neptune is kind of romantic, and so they can kind of be clingy and needy. In the birth, there's a lack of choice. Again, like C-section, inducing, you know? They're very compassionate in like healing and counseling roles. Okay, when I'm editing, I will go back and try to explain everything like deeper for you to understand, because I feel like I just could have explained that more. But yeah, like and subscribe if you wanna. Obviously, you can comment if you have anything to say. Also, sorry if I'm not talking very loud. I kind of feel like crap, but what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you guys if you liked this style video better, where you can't really see my face, or not can't really, you just can't, or if you liked it when you could see me, oh my gosh, explaining things to you. Let me know in the comments, because I'm indecisive, so I really don't care either way, to be honest, because at least like if you can't see my face, I don't have to stand, because I can just like literally just sit there and hold the phone to like my mouth. But it also takes slightly longer to edit, so I wouldn't mind standing either. But yeah, let me know. Maybe if you want, comment like your favorite thing about your placement, your first house placement. If you have any, if you were just here for education, that's cool too. What else do I need to say at the end of this? Oh, buy a reading from me. I do full birth chart readings. What else should I say? And yeah, I don't know, comment what placements you want me to do next. If it's, yeah, I pretty much can do anything really. Like some things I know less about. I hope you enjoyed. I filmed a TikTok video like reacting to astrological TikToks, but my iMovies is glitching for that video, and I don't know how to like edit it in a way that makes it look good. So sorry about that. That's probably not coming out, but I probably will do a video reacting to astrology tweets, like the generalized ones. So stay tuned for that, and I hope this helps you and you have a good day. Thanks.